LFC shock move. Hello and welcome to YNWE Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Liverpool to remain patient in pursuit of £40 million transfer target. Waiting on Guehi, Edwards plays the long game. With Crystal Palace placing a £40 million valuation on their star defender Mark Guehi, it appears Liverpool, and more specifically, Michael Edwards, are prepared to bide their time in their hunt for new additions. The Reds are reportedly content to wait until later in August, hoping that the South London club softens their stance and a deal can be struck closer to the end of the summer transfer window. It appears the player is keen on a move to Merseyside and with 1 year remaining on his current deal, holds much of the power in deciding his future. It's a strategic gamble, but one built upon logic. Liverpool, now Premier League champions for the second time in 6 seasons, are no longer forced buyers. They're architects of their window, moving on their timeline and under brilliant executive leadership. Unlike previous regimes that might have overpaid early to get their man, this iteration, led by the returning Edwards and implemented by sporting director Richard Hughes, knows the market, knows its needs, and knows when to hold its nerve. Selling Juro Kwanzaa to Bayer Leverkusen for a fee of £35 million has created a clear vacancy at the heart of Liverpool's defensive rotation. Virgil van Dijk's 2-year extension provides short-term continuity, and Ibrahima Konate's likely new contract cements him as the long-term successor as defensive leader. But with Joe Gomez's patchy availability and Wataru Endo more of an emergency option, Liverpool needs another starting-level defender, one capable of playing across both centre-back roles with authority. And that's where Guehi fits perfectly. Guehi over Hato, why practicality beats potential. Chelsea's recent move to sign João Hato, one of the most exciting young centre-backs in Europe, sparked some frustration among Liverpool's supporters. At £35 million, the fee appeared accessible, especially considering Hato's age and upside. But while the Ajax prodigy has immense potential, the answer to Liverpool's defensive dilemma lies more in proven quality than speculative promise. Hato would not displace Virgil van Dijk, nor would he develop quickly enough behind him in a summer of such aggressive evolution at Anfield. Meanwhile, Milos Kerkez's arrival has already fortified the left-back spot, with Andy Robertson still serving as an experienced, high-level option. Investing in another left-sided defender with limited top-level experience would have been more luxury than necessity. Mark Guehi, by contrast, is Premier League battle-tested, England's starting centre-back at Euro 2024, and already a leader at just 24. He can play both sides of a central pairing, is dominant in duels, and thrives in high-line systems, a non-negotiable under Arne Slot. Perhaps most critically, Guehi is tactically intelligent and organizationally gifted. As Palace captain, he's shown he can marshal a back line, which would allow him to complement and perhaps succeed Van Dijk without disrupting team structure or dressing room hierarchy. Value and experience, Guehi the logical addition. Should Liverpool land Guehi for a fee in the region of £35 million, effectively balancing out the Kwanzaa sale, it would represent smart, controlled recruitment. Not every signing needs to be a blockbuster, even in this fantastical window of change. Sometimes, stability and dependability are the real game changers. In a squad that continues to evolve, with attacking talent like Florian Wirtz and potentially Alexander Isak arriving, the importance of defensive consistency cannot be overstated in defense of the title. Liverpool's spine has always been key to their championship-winning blueprint. Guehi may not carry the glamour of an Ekatike or the technical flair of Wirtz, but in terms of strengthening the foundation, he's precisely the kind of signing champions make. There's also a national team angle worth noting. With Liverpool already losing key English players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Curtis Jones, and Harvey Elliott, they remain peripheral figures, therefore. Adding another homegrown international helps with both squad registration and long-term cultural identity. If patience does bring reward, then Guehi could arrive at the perfect moment, once Palace realize their bargaining position is shrinking and Liverpool remain the only serious bidder. It's not a race to win the headline. It's a campaign to secure the right player, at the right price, for the right reasons. And in Mark Guehi, the wait may well be worth every minute. Paul Joyce breaks deal that sees Liverpool realize £144.9 million transfer truth. Liverpool are set to further bolster their kitty this summer with the sale of Tyler Morton to Lyon now imminent. Paul Joyce confirmed the transfer in question on X, formerly Twitter. The midfielder is set to now follow in the footsteps of Luis Diaz, Jarell Quansah, Caoimhin Kelleher, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, and others, in seeking pastures new. Liverpool agree Tyler Morton transfer exit. First things first, we at Empire of the Cop would like to thank Morton for all his contributions in a Liverpool shirt. He's been unfortunate to have pretty stiff competition in midfield under Jurgen Klopp and Arne Slot. That said, from our point of view, he's been a consummate professional and hasn't lacked for quality or effort during his time at Anfield. Empire of the Cop reported back in late July that Lyon had expressed a clear interest in signing Tyler Morton this summer. The deal will see Liverpool pocket around £15 million, according to Joyce, on top of a 20% sell-on clause. So, some pretty tidy business all round from Richard Hughes and the recruitment team. How much have Liverpool made from player sales this summer? Despite some pretty major outlays on players like Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike, and soon, perhaps, Alexander Isak, we've done well to recoup some funds this summer. Including Alexander-Arnold's meager £8.4 million fee, to accelerate his exit ahead of a free transfer to Real Madrid, we've brought in roughly £144.9 million, including add-ons. Bear in mind there's every possibility Liverpool could significantly add to that total if they can manage to sell Darwin Núñez to Saudi Arabia for a reported asking price of £60.7 million. That would take sales beyond the £200 million mark, which stacks up reasonably well with our current outlay total of approximately £266 million, including add-ons. Liverpool performing well in sales is always a positive indicator. There's nothing that quite beats the adrenaline rush of cash being splashed like there's no tomorrow. Not to mention the blissful sight of a brand new, shiny footballer walking through the doors of the AXA training center. That said, Liverpool have hardly racked up a sound reputation for their incomings alone. Michael Edwards' reputation was certainly bolstered by his remarkable ability to extract top value from deadwood in the squad. It's incredibly reassuring to see that Richard Hughes has picked up the torch on this front and is already leading a new era of savvy transfer dealings. Long may it continue! Liverpool moved quickly to reach Rodrygo agreement after ending Alexander Isak interest. Liverpool have quickly turned to Rodrygo after ending their interest in Alexander Isak. With Luis Diaz leaving for Bayern Munich in a deal worth around £65 million, the Premier League champions were expected to reinvest the funds in the Newcastle striker. Live blog, all the latest transfer news and rumors. The Reds have spent heavily already this summer, snapping up Florian Wirtz in a British record deal worth up to £116 million, while Jeremy Frimpong and Milos Kerkez arrived from Bayer Leverkusen and Bournemouth, respectively, for a combined £75 million. And one £110 million bid for Isak later, which was immediately rejected by Newcastle, and the Reds are said to have admitted defeat in what they view as a futile chase for his signature. The nature of Newcastle's rejection, the club are said to want £150 million, has led them to abandon their attempts to sign the player, and now Rodrygo is reportedly in their sights. ESPN Brazil report that Liverpool have already made contact with Rodrygo's agents ahead of a first formal bid. Journalist Ciro Lopez claims that Rodrygo has agreed personal terms with the Reds, writing, "Liverpool have spoken to the entourage of Rodrygo, and the Real Madrid forward has approved an informal offer of personal terms." Arne Slot's secret Alexander Isak talks revealed as Ornstein update fuels Liverpool hopes. A respected journalist is convinced Liverpool cannot be discounted from the race to sign Alexander Isak just yet amid claims Arne Slot has held secret talks with the unsettled Newcastle striker, while an update from David Ornstein has further fueled belief that a British record transfer is there to be done. Isak's future has been thrust firmly under the spotlight over the last fortnight after it emerged that he was keen to leave Newcastle and sign for Liverpool, a story exclusively first broken by our transfer correspondent Fraser Fletcher on that fateful Thursday, last week, when the news emerged. With the Sweden striker skipping the club's tour of Asia, despite his scan from an alleged calf problem coming back all clear, question marks over his continuation at St. James Park have reached fever pitch in recent days amid a firm opening offer from Liverpool for his services. Worth £110 million, plus add-ons taking it towards a British record £120 million, €137.5 million, $159 million, Newcastle had no hesitation in rejecting that bid, staying true to their official not-for-sale mantra, while also continuing to stick by their hefty £150 million, €172 million, $199 million demands. That has since led to claims from Ben Jacobs that the Premier League champions are ready to walk away from a prospective deal over fears of the rising costs involved. However, another journalist, Julian Lorenz, is convinced a blockbuster deal is still on, claiming the striker is merely waiting for the move to go through and having also revealed the 25-year-old's secret talks with Reds boss Arne Slot. You would expect Liverpool to up their offer, probably to around €140 million, and you would expect, really, Newcastle to accept it and Isak to arrive at the club. Isak right now only wants Liverpool. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. He's training on his own in San Sebastian, at Real Sociedad's training ground, just waiting literally for the move to happen to Liverpool. Lorenz added, he's already spoken to Arne Slot. I think personal terms have already been agreed or certainly not far from it. Isak to Liverpool, updates from Ornstein, Romano, and Keith Downey. Lorenz also thinks Liverpool's chances will accelerate once Newcastle agree a deal on a replacement for the Swede in attack. So, now it's just a case of Liverpool finding an agreement with Newcastle and also Newcastle finding a replacement. Lorenz adds, whether that's Sesko, Watkins, Wissa, they've got a few names on their shortlist, but they also need to find a replacement before this whole deal with Liverpool for Isak happens. A new update from Ornstein on Saturday morning has revealed that Newcastle have raised the stakes with Sesko. And amid unconfirmed claims from his native Slovenia that the 22-year-old is now ready to accept a move to St. James Park, the Magpies have now raised their bid for the powerful 6 feet 5 inches star, agreeing to meet RB Leipzig's asking price. Newcastle United submit offer to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Sesko. An UFC bid made in the last 24 hours, worth €75 million plus €5 million, around asking price RB Leipzig informed to suitors. UFC pursuit ongoing. No decision yet from 22-year-old Slovenia international striker, Ornstein wrote on X. In a quickfire update, Fabrizio Romano simply stated that Liverpool planned to bid again for the 139-goal striker. Perhaps the most telling update, though, came from Sky Sports News reporter Keith Downey, who claims the Isak situation could be resolved as soon as next week amid claims a new and improved bid for the player was on the way. It could be done next week, absolutely it could. I don't see this dragging on until the end of the transfer window, Downey explained. Newcastle would want some kind of resolution. I think Liverpool would too. The amount of money we are talking about is eye-watering. I don't think this is one that can be left to the dying embers of the transfer window. I do expect a resolution one way or the other in the next week or two. But it's a huge transfer. It would be a Premier League record if Newcastle were to accept. Liverpool have already agreed personal terms with Isak over a 6-year deal. Despite that, Newcastle boss Eddie Howe remains unmoved over the situation, stressing his wish to continue working with the striker earlier this week. My wish is he stays and we see him playing again next year, Howe said on Tuesday. We, to a degree, control what is next for him. I would love to believe all possibilities are still available to us. My wish is that he stays, but that's not in my full control. In a fresh update overnight, however, Howe has confirmed the striker is back in Spain and training with his former club, Real Sociedad. I know where he is, really, through the media. From that perspective, it's difficult for me to go into any kind of detail. The situation is far from ideal and is quite complex, Howe stated. Liverpool transfer latest. Superstar forward agrees personal terms. Khan8 responds to offer. The Reds, meanwhile, are reportedly set to launch an offer for Rodrygo, and they are fueled by claims that the Real Madrid star has already approved an informal offer of personal terms. Elsewhere, Reds defender Ibrahima Khan8 has made up his mind on his future amid interest from Real Madrid, according to a French source, with the Anfield star's comments on next season also indicating his state of mind. And finally, Liverpool's hopes of signing Mark Guehi have taken something of a knock after a BBC reporter revealed Richard Hughes' reluctance to meet Crystal Palace's asking price and instead gamble on the possibility of signing him on a free next summer. Thanks for watching. Like and comment. Subscribe.